Today we're going to talk for a second about air masses, and then we're going to go into fronts. Air mass is a volume of air defined by its temperature and water vapor content. And there are different types of air masses. If they form over land, we call them continental. If they form over the ocean, we call them maritime, but that's more like extra information that you really don't need to know. Well, we are going to switch over to the PowerPoint presentation, and we are going to talk a little bit about fronts. There's 4 types of fronts. We're going to talk about 3 of them. And how do we get a front? That's when the air masses are going to collide. That's going to cause a front. Now, I do have my son here with me today. He's back from Florida, and since he is going to be a meteorologist and he's studying meteorology, I thought that he could explain some of these slides and we could sort of go through some of this together. Okay, Joey, go ahead.
Yes, so fronts form when 2 air masses come together. So for example, in this picture we have the warm air and the cold air, and when the cold air moves into the warm air, we will get precipitation like thunderstorms. For example, when it's really hot out here, we usually get thunderstorms near the end of that heat wave because of a cold front moving through when the cold air moves into the hot air. And so,
okay, good. And here is a
as we know, weather moves from west to east in a typical on a typical day, and basically also fronts move from west to east. Obviously, they can also move north and south, but that's another story.
So if we look, I'll go back to that weather map for a minute. If we look at this weather map, this is something that you would need to do for your project, but obviously it wouldn't be a weather map of the United States. It would be of the land that you have created, the new civilization, and you would put a key on there, and you would basically give the forecast, and you would do highs and lows, and warm fronts and cold fronts. Those are the 2 that we're really gonna talk about. So the first one's a cold front, right,
And
Joey?
a cold front and a warm front and an included front will always happen within a low pressure system.
Okay, and remember, low pressure gives us
That's how
lousy
fronts
weather.
happen. And high pressure, there's no fronts.
Good.
So obviously a cold front brings cold air, and cold air is more dense than warm air,
So it sinks.
which is why it sinks.
Okay.
And obviously it rapidly replaces warm air. Like in this picture, the cold air is going to sink under the warm air. The warm air rises, which is also how you get thunderstorms, etc.
Okay, and you can see that in the bottom where they also have the picture where it shows triangles. Triangles, you can't keep touching that, Joey, because that covers the words up. The triangles, I like to think of them as like icicles. They're pointy, and that is going to represent cold. Okay, the next one.
And thunderstorms and showers, and they bring low pressure.
Okay.
Well, cold fronts are always associated with low pressure systems. Warm fronts are also associated with low pressure systems, and they are much slower than cold fronts because, as we know, thunderstorms do not last for hours upon hours or days.
And that's a good thing.
Whereas gloomy, rainy weather does last typically longer than thunderstorms do. But after a warm front passes, it does get a little bit warmer. But then typically that also leads to a cold front coming through, which will dramatically decrease the temperatures, as we know.
Okay.
And so it brings rainfall and fog and front. And once the front passes, then sky is clear and weather becomes warmer.
And if we look at this picture, this has like a half of a circle. And
Yeah,
that's how they're
just a
represented on the
circle.
map.
Occluded fronts are when
We're just going to do the bottom where it says it brings thunder.
basically that's when a cold front catches up to a warm front, but there's too many theories out there thinking that that's wrong now and stuff like that. So it's very
Yeah, we're not
annoying
gonna. That's too
and
above our level.
unimportant. for this level.
Okay, and go to second or stationary. Our
And
last one.
stationary is just that it stays there and doesn't move, and it brings clouds and gloomy weather and precipitation.
So these are the air masses
Air
that
that
are not
doesn't move.
moving, and you can see
Yeah.
the picture here where it shows on one side the cold front, which are the triangles, and the other side is the warm front. How long can a stationary front last, Joey? Do you know?
I don't know. Days. I mean, honestly, I think they're pretty rare though. They're not very.
Oh, okay.
They're not very
Common?
Common, yeah. It's mostly things move through really quickly. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for being our guest speaker here on YouTube.
Yeah, sure. Goodbye.
Okay, we're done for now.